Welcome. So this is the second part of this lesson, and we're talking about the unitary method. So in the first lesson, the first part of the lesson was a bit of an introduction, and hopefully you got a good grasp of what the unitary method is for. I'm now going to go through some handwritten questions that you'll be expected to do. This is an exercise 6C, which is called dividing a quantity in a given ratio. Our learning intentions to understand that a quantity can be divided into a ratio, to be able to divide a quantity in a particular ratio, and to be able to find the total quantity given a ratio and the actual size of one component. Perfect. So in the first part of this lesson, we spoke about the unitary method, and we spoke about the steps, and they're written out here. The first step, find the total number of parts in the ratio, find the value of one part, and then find the value of the number of parts required in the ratio. And here's an example here for you to read through yourself, or just as a bit of a refresher if you ever want to look back at these notes. I also want to talk about another way of approaching these types of questions, and it's called the fractions method. And I'll talk through this a bit later. I want to jump straight into an example and show you how both of these methods work. So let's come to our question here. It says, divide 54 meters in a ratio of 4 to 5. So we're dividing 54 meters in a ratio of 4 to 5. And we're going to use our unitary method first to answer this. So remember, the first thing that we do when we're using our unitary method is find the total amount of parts, so total parts. Well, if my ratio is 4 parts to 5 parts, what I'm going to do is go 4 plus 5, which is going to be equal to 9. So that means 9 parts is my total. So that means I can say that 9 parts is equal to my total here, which is 54 meters. 54 meters. The next thing that we do in our unitary method is find what one part is going to be. To find what one part is going to be, we have to ask ourselves, how do I go from 9 to 1? And obviously I'm going to divide by 9. And that means I have to do the same thing to the other side. 54 divided by 9 is going to be 6 meters. The next thing that I do in my unitary method is I find the required number of parts that I'm after. So in this case, it's 4 parts and 5 parts. So let's start with 4 parts. If I want 4 parts, what I'm going to do is go, well, how do I go from 1 to 4? And obviously I'm timesing by 4. So that means I have to do the same to the other side here. I'm going to get 6 times 4, and 6 times 4 is going to be 24. So I'm going to come over here and say 24 meters. So perfect, we've done 4 parts, but now I need to figure out what 5 parts is going to be. So again, let's remind ourselves, I know that 1 part is going to be 6 meters. So therefore, to find what 5 parts is going to be, I'm going to have to times both sides by 5. And the reason for that is because 1 times 5 is 5 parts, and that's what we're after. And then 6 times 5 is 30 meters. Perfect. So what we have done is we have found that 4 parts is equal to 24, and we have also found that 5 parts is equal to 30. So that means if we now want to divide up 54 meters in a ratio of 4 to 5, what it's going to be is, drum roll, 24 meters and 30 meters. Make sure that you have them in that order. You have to make sure you go 24 and 30, but that is how you approach it. So that is our final answer. And let me just highlight it so you can see exactly what we've done here. Let me grab my other highlighter as well, like that, and we're done. Now, we spoke about ways that we can check if we've done this correctly. The first way we can check is making sure that we have created an equivalent ratio. And sure enough, if I have 4 and 5 and 24 and 30, are these equivalent ratios? So let me just quickly write this in. Let me do it in red. So is 4 to 5 an equivalent ratio to 24 and 30? And sure enough, it is, because I'm just timesing both sides by 6. So it is equivalent. The other verification check that we can do, so let me write this one down, is we can check by adding together our ratio. So 24 and 30 should be equal to 54 meters, because remember, that's the total that we started with, and sure enough, that's true. So that means we can give that a big tick. It worked. So our check works. And that is the unitary method. Now, if you're really happy with the unitary method, it's a great way to do it and you can use it. But I also want to show you another way that you can answer these types of questions. So let's come over here now and talk about the fractions method. So the fraction method is similar. What we're first going to say is, hey, I know that the total number of parts that I'm after, the total parts, is 4 plus 5, which is 9. Now, another way of thinking about this, if I want to divide 54 meters in a ratio of 4 to 5, I know that my total is 9. Well, what I'm after is 4/9 of 54. And I know that that is the same as 4/9 times 54 on 1. So I'm just timesing fractions. I would then do some cancelling. 9 divided by 9 is 1. 54 divided by 9 is 6. So that means what I'm going to end up with here, remember I times my numerators, 24. I times my denominators, 1. So I'm going to get 24 meters here. And now I need to find out, for my 5, what is 5/9 of 54. So to answer this, I go 5/9 times 54/1. I then do some cancelling. So I'm going to go 9 divided by 9 is 1. 9 divided by 54 divided by 9 rather is 6. And then I'll grab another color. Times my numerators. 5 times 6 is 30. 1 times 1 is 1. So I'm going to end up with 30 meters. And as you can see, I'm going to end up with 24 meters. And I'm also going to end up with 30 meters. So that means if I was to write this as a ratio now, I would simply go, it's 24 meters to 30 meters. And that's exactly what we found with the unitary method. So this is just an alternative way of doing it. In principle, you're doing the same thing. It's just if you like this way better. So it's your choice. The decision is up to you. Both of them give you the same answer. Hopefully you found this useful. In the next part of this video, I'll go through another example if you're still feeling a bit rusty on it, and then other parts of this lesson will be other things you need to know. Okay, with that being said, I'll let you go. See you in the next part.